Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome back to Motherboards.org. Today, once again, we have our special guest, JJ from ASUS. You guys all know him. You guys might notice a little difference there. He's sporting a nice little mustache there. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about two of the latest ROG series motherboards to hit the market. This is the new Maximus 5. We have two of them here in front of us. We have the Formula Thunder FX and we have the Maximus. And what JD is going to do is he's not only going to give you guys a full features overview, he's going to explain the differences of why you'd want to choose either board. So with that said, I'll shut my big mouth and let Mr. JJ do his thing on these two great motherboards. So what's up, Jay?
Doing all right, boss. As always, thank you for having me.
Right on, we're always glad to have you.
So like you talked about, one of the biggest things that we get questions actually within our communities, our social media channels, and through all kinds of different forum posts is kind of what's the difference between our different segmentation lines. For ROG, we have, of course, the Maximus series and we have the Rampage series. Rampage is usually, of course, the highest end chipset, so we reserve the Rampage for X79 currently. So that's the reason why you don't see any Rampage series boards here. So, Rampage 4 Extreme, Rampage 4 Formula, Rampage 4 Gene, those are all X79 boards.
Okay, so you're no longer going to be doing those on the AMD chipsets at all either?
There's never been an AMD board that's been Rampage. Generally, for all the AMD series boards, they're reserved under the Corsair series.
Corsair series, okay.
And we will actually be coming out with a brand new AMD series board in the not too distant future, so definitely keep your eyes tuned, and I'm sure it's going to show up here on this channel.
All right.
So you can guys watch out for that, for the Crosshair 5 Formula Z.
Yeah, right on.
But in terms of the Intel side of the fence, what we're doing here is we have the Maximus series, which is usually kind of the, let's say, the performance mainstream chipsets. So that's generally been, the 1155 platform. So that's, of course, what we have right here. So Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge compatible platforms, but we still keep that same targeted name in terms of Extreme, Formula, and Gene. And that's what we're going to dive into a little bit more here, because as you've kind of talked about, you've gotten a lot of users that sometimes will wonder, well, what's the difference between Formula and what's the difference between Extreme, and which one, quote unquote, might be better?
That really is the main question we get. Most of the questions I get about the boards are like, hey, why would I want to differentiate between these two boards? I'm really confused. That's why I thought a video today where you explained that would really explain to the users out there when they're coming to make a decision why they would want to buy different boards, because a lot of the things in these boards are the same, but there are some things that seriously differentiate them from each other.
Definitely. I think historically, when you look at our channel series lineup, so our channel are kind of the mainstream series boards. A lot of people know them as like kind of the blue boards. So like the standard, the pro, the deluxe. It usually is pretty straightforward that you know that everything that you're getting between the standard board, the pro board, and then the deluxe board, it's pretty much you get everything that's on that board below and it keeps going up, right?
Yeah, so we talked about before, like you guys missed any videos? ASUS is a very, very high quality, and a lot of those qualities they don't skimp on, and those are what we call baseline features. And a lot of their motherboards have these features all the way from the bottom all the way up, so that a lot of the really important stuff is on every board, true?
Yes. And we still keep that definitely true within the ROG series boards, but we do create a little bit more segmentation. And what we mean by that is that Formula and Gene are really targeted at the gamer audience. And while definitely the Extreme is a definitely capable gaming board, there's going to be certain technologies that might not be inherently built onto the board that aren't directly focused at an integrated gamer experience. So when we're taking a look at the two boards right off the bat, right, you're going to see there's going to seem to be a lot of consistency. But one of the biggest differences that we're going to see is in this lower portion of the board here. Here you can see we've got this big area that's referred to as our Supreme Effects audio implementation. So this is a really high quality audio design. Essentially our goal was to take discrete class audio and build it directly onto the motherboard.
Right, making it so that even the enthusiast level guy would not have to go out and buy a discrete video card that's already solved within this board, right?
Yeah, a discrete sound card. So we're taking on the original Supreme Effects audio design that we released in the previous generation, where it's fully separated. So there's actually what we call a red line audio design that fully separates this whole portion of the board from the rest of the board.
Right, this actually helps keep all the noise and everything away electronically away from the rest of the board.
Correct.
Right?
So you don't get things like interference or signal issues. You don't get different types of impedance problems. There's a lot of different things that happen on the electrical layers that can influence the characteristics of sound. It can create humming, noise. It can reduce the maximum volume level. So when we designed this implementation, it was pretty much at trying to give you the highest quality implementation that we could for integrating a sound solution, right? So it's a kick-ass audio design, really, really high quality. On the Extreme, we don't have that. And sometimes that confuses users. They wonder, well, why is the difference? And the main reason being is that on the Extreme, these users are generally considering already a higher class of sound card right off the bat. Maybe they've already previously purchased like a Zonar DX, maybe they have a Zonar Phoebus, a Zonar STX,
exactly.
A high-end discrete audio card. So for us to go ahead and integrate a sound solution on there would be kind of a waste because they wouldn't be utilizing it because they're taking advantage of better quality audio. Secondary to that is that right next to the sound portion, we're actually going to have a lot of PCI-E expansion. But the formula, for instance, in the Z77 lineup only has two-way support. So that means you can go ahead and do two-way crossfire, two-way SLI, or you could do quad configurations like two GTX 690s or something like that. But on the extreme, we're utilizing a PLX Gen 3 switch, which gives us the ability to run three-way or four-way configurations. So really focus once again at that highest level of kind of enthusiast performance where they want, kind of that highest level of graphics performance. They're interested in doing multiple panel gaming. Maybe this user might be only running a single panel, maybe two panels, maybe 2560 gaming. This guy might be the guy that's thinking, dude, I'm doing three panels, three 2560s,
7680 by 1440 minimum.
Maybe I'm doing 3D across multiple panels. They're just going into that whole next bracket. The other possibility, though, is that they might be purchasing this board just for the sheer flexibility of expansion. We get a lot of extreme users that don't necessarily run three-way or four-way, but they want all that PCIe expansion because maybe they want to run two triple slot cards and still have spacing in the center. So that's going to be kind of another point of differentiation between these two boards. Now you can see we've got some awesome high-performance brand new Corsair Dominator Platinum memory.
I was saying those. They look pretty impressive.
These are pretty beastly. I mean, it's pretty much the highest clock memories that you can get here on the market. We're running 4x4 kits because honestly, any ROG user is already an enthusiast. The difference might be that on extreme, these guys are on the kind of the bleeding edge, while these guys are kind of on the cutting edge. So here we have 2666 modules, and here we've got 2400 modules. So this is kind of, once again, for the users that are looking just for that much more. Now, but
JJ, you've actually XMP profiled for even farther than that, true?
That's correct. We have actually already done certification with kits actually even up to 2800 and even higher when actually overclocked. And definitely you're not going to be necessarily restricted to say, hey, you couldn't run these DIMMs in this board, but it's just to kind of give an insight to the perspective that the extreme users are those guys that are looking for that one next level better of performance.
Yeah, they're like the bleeding edge.
Correct.
It came out yesterday, I gotta buy it.
It's pretty much like it is, you see something get posted on, a PR release, you find out that, hey, they just came out with that new SSD, it's, 10% faster, and you're interested in having it. And that's what the extreme is all about, at that bleeding edge level of performance. Now, you're still going to definitely get levels of consistency that are present across all the boards. Here we've got, the Fan Expert 2 technology that we've talked about in the past. There's an awesome
if you missed that video, you guys
channel.
can check that out. Yeah, it works really awesome.
That's really cool. Here we've integrated the M combo module adapter, so both cards fully support dual band Wi-Fi with 82.11n support and Bluetooth 4.0. They both give you that ability to run, an mSATA SSD on there for either local storage or for SSD caching. They're both going to give you, the Intel NIC that we really love in terms of the performance functionality. But the formula is also going to come included with that Game First packet priority software, which helps you to optimize your games for lower pings, reduce latency, and overall a more tuned experience to give you the best online gaming potential. For these users, they might be maybe more sophisticated. Maybe they're going to go out and specifically buy their own packet priority software. It could even be the same one that we bundle here. Or maybe they're going to go in and add in a different network controller. So it's much more about, we want to try to give you a flexibility and also give you specialized technologies that you might not necessarily be able to go out and purchase. Or extend those. So
there's little wires right here?
Exactly. So here we've got voltage read points, which both of these boards actually support, but this one takes it to a little bit higher level where it gives you the direct probit connections, so you can just plug the multimeter directly into there as opposed to, having to directly measure them with the point of the multimeter.
If anybody out there does overclocking and use a multimeter, you'll find out that using these things is so much simpler than sitting here trying to put the connector onto your board. With this, you plug it in, you look at it, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about hitting anything or shorting out your board, which you guys know when you're sitting there messing around with the wires, you're always worried, well, I short something out. With this, eliminates that worry completely.
Yeah, it's once again just giving that user kind of a little bit more control and flexibility of being able to maximize and performance tune the board. So when we're taking a look here at the actual VRM, right, you can see that there's a big difference. Now, both of them use that full high performance digital VRM design that we've talked about in the past that's on all the Z77 boards, and ROG even take it further. We actually have what's called our Extreme Engine Digi+2 design, which is everything from the high performance alloy-based chokes to these beautiful black Nichicon GT capacitors. That's the same on both of these boards.
Okay.
Both of them are badass when we talk about just high performance parts, overclockability, stability, and long-term lifespan.
Right. So as far as that goes, you don't mean to interrupt you, but as far as like that goes, so you guys know what he's saying is that all the components in the motherboards are the same. So this one has all the same high quality components as this one. So if you're looking for, buying one just because of the quality components, that's not going to really make a difference because they're both the same. True.
Correct, exactly. So you don't need to feel like, hey, is the
I
formula
have to buy the Maximus?
Is the formula somehow going to be inferior? And even actually, we don't have it out here, but the baby brother to the lot, the Gene board, still features those same high performance ROG class parts. So you can feel confident in terms of the overclocking quality and experience on all these boards is going to be matched essentially. Where you're going to see differentiation is going to be maybe in some of the specialized cooling tech. So here you can see that actually on the VRM assembly we've got the support for the barbs for water cooling. And that's because we actually know that most users are going to be generally using a passive cooling setup. So that means that they're not going to use water cooling. It's just going to be passively cooled by the VRM heatsink. And that's going to do a very solid job. But for some users, they might kind of, at a certain period of time, say, hey, you know what, I want to push my system a little bit further, a little bit harder, maybe overclock to a little bit higher degree. I've heard about water cooling, I'm interested in it, but I don't know that much about it. So I just want to buy maybe a basic pump, get the cabling, get it connected, and have it working.
And with this one, you've already got it pretty set up, covering everything, so you just connect it and go.
Exactly. It's a simplified, integrated solution that is going to definitely give you much, much better performance, much cooler temperatures than you would be able to achieve under an air configuration, but it's not going to replace the highest level of performance you can get with discrete water block solutions that are custom designed for that highest level of performance.
Exactly, which like when we look over the Extreme, we see it doesn't have that because we automatically assume that the guys who are doing that are going to go out and get a SwiftTech product or something really high end and put it on there.
Correct.
So they probably wouldn't even use the mid-range thing. So
yeah,
that's what
they're the guys that want to customize the solution. They know exactly what type of barbs, fittings, compression. They know what pump flow, everything that they want. They know exactly what they're looking for. So our goal here is to at least make sure we have a very high performance VRM heatsink, but actually it has more points of diffusion and dissipation properties on here. So in terms of total airflow reception, the VRM heatsink on the Extreme is actually a little bit better than what we might even be offering here on the Fusion Thermo system from a purely passive solution.
Okay, so what that means, folks, what you're saying is this one passive and active means that active actually has something running through it. Like this one would have liquid running through it. On this one, it's completely passive, nothing moving, but it's actually designed to actually stay cooler with only air.
Yeah, and so in that respect, we're trying to give you a really high quality performance heatsink solution. But like you said, for the users that want to take it to the next level, we don't want them to have to pay for something that they're going to replace anyway.
Exactly.
So just like the sound, we've taken that in consideration. But there's other points that as we continue to take a look at the rest of the board, that we continue to create levels of separation. So when we take a look at the SATA connectivity, all the ROG boards are about giving you robust, high-performance SATA connectivity. So we've removed, normally what you would have is 2 SATA 6G ports and then 4 SATA 3G ports, right? Here, these are all SATA 6G ports. So we have 2 from the Intel PCH and then 4 from the AS Media 1061 controller with 2 discrete chips and then 2 3G ports. And then we have an actual eSATA port and then one of the other 3G ports for the mSATA there. And that's the same like the formula. But below on the formula, you won't see this little block here. This board features a special connection that's called our Sub-Zero Sense technology. So this is an integrated, essentially like high-performance thermoresistor where you can do temperature that goes down to really, really low levels.
So like when you're using those high-end liquid nitrogen type systems and stuff, that's designed actually for the extreme overclocking.
Yeah, for the guys that are looking for the highest level of temperature monitoring with the most critical kind of level in terms of the flexibility of the probes, they're even actually generally more durable, more reliable to be able to put in different types of situations. Now, both boards actually feature our optional temp sensors. So we've talked a huge amount that ROG boards always give you an insane number of fan headers. There's 8 fan headers on here that feature all that customized control that we've talked about, but there are 3 optional temp sensors that you can actually plug in so that you can plug them anywhere. You could put it by the memory, you could put it by the GPU, hang it in your chassis, by the hard drive, and you could get the temperature for that device. And that's on the formula, but here we've taken it further with that Sub-Zero Sense technology. So that's once again just about extending, right, that functionality that you're getting with the board being able to control and monitor more. Connectivity-wise, you're going to be pretty similar in terms of what you're going to get. The boards, of course, have USB 3. They feature our USB 3 boost technology, which you've seen in action. It's really awesome.
I use it every day.
They both, of course, have the USB 3 charger technology that we also support, so that lets you charge, Apple devices,
phones, everything,
or non-Apple devices. So whether you got, maybe a Nexus 7, a Kindle, any different, Android smartphone, that can all be charged and work with. But where there is going to be some difference in connectivity, this board features the Thunderbolt expansion header that's on the bottom of the board. So that means you could buy our Thunderbolt expansion card, pop it in there, right? Extreme is already going to come integrated with the Thunderbolt.
Okay, I understand that.
So that's once again because Extreme users are looking for that highest level of performance. They're the guys that are also probably willing to adopt Thunderbolt at a little bit higher cost, but they're going, to that highest level in terms of wanting to have the best external storage performance. Just like those are the same guys considering multiple GPUs. Now, in terms of some of the other connectivity differences, you're also going to be looking at and not connectivity difference, but BIOS difference are going to be this board features 2 independent BIOS chips, while this board does not. Now, both boards feature the full exclusive USB BIOS flashback technology, so that lets you, of course, flash this chip with no memory, no CPU, and no graphics card. You just need the PSU standby power. So that's an awesome backup recovery feature that's built into both. But here we've taken it to the next level that a user can have a customized, maybe let's say 24/7 gaming BIOS, and then that other BIOS is kind of like their testing, tweaking, tuning BIOS.
Overclocking BIOS.
Yeah, overclocking BIOS. And we've also taken it to the next level that on both boards, though, they're still featuring a non-soldered design. Some competitors are going to talk about, a dual BIOS solution, but it's going to be fully soldered into the board.
Right, I know exactly what you're talking about, where you cannot remove the chip ever if anything happens. I'm not really a fan of that design, but that does seem the way people are going these days.
It is a cheaper solution, but it doesn't give you the flexibility that even worst case, if there's a surge, spike, or sag, even if you have a backup BIOS, the BIOSes can actually be corrupted to the point that even if you have a second one, it might not post.
Exactly. Let me explain to you guys out there. What that means is like a lot of the motherboards out there that have the BIOS on the board, if the BIOS gets fried, you can't change it. With this board, all you'd really have to do is you could call up ASUS and they can send you a BIOS in the mail and you can just pull the BIOS chip out and put it back in. On motherboards that don't have that, your motherboard's gone and you're just back to square zero to getting another motherboard.
Yeah, you'd essentially have to RMA the motherboard.
Exactly.
But like I said, we go from those two perspectives. Either one, like you said, you could call us up, or you could also attempt to recover it using that USB BIOS flashback technology. So we try to give advantages in both respects in that regard. There's also going to be some additional connectivity. This board doesn't feature dual front USB 3 connections. Okay. So you have one front USB 3 header here on the side of the board. This one is going to feature one front USB 3 here, but it's also then going to feature another front USB 3 down here.
Okay, so like some of those new cases that actually have 4 USB 3.0 in the front of the case.
Now, I'm a fan of definitely anything that's about tweaking and tuning, but there's definitely going to be some additional options when it comes to tweaking and tuning on the Extreme versus the Formula. So we were touching there in terms of some of the differences that we have in connectivity, right? And right next to the Probit connections that we talked about, right? So those voltage read points, we have some different headers that are on here. And these headers are pretty cool. So, of course, Formula's got some awesome overclocking functionality that you can use, of course, with our graphics cards and our GPU tweak software. But the Extreme takes it further. You actually have hardware connections that you can make directly to, like, let's say this 7970 DirectCU2 graphics card, where we actually have these voltage point connections that you can actually tie in directly to the motherboard and have a direct voltage override.
Right, then you can control all that through the BIOS.
Through the BIOS, through AI Suite 2, it's all directly available to you, and you can push the card farther than actually what the normal VBIOSes allow for. What some users might not know is that both NVIDIA and AMD, they set kind of certain markers at what we're allowed to do when setting certain voltages, and so we can't directly implement maybe the VBIOS to push that higher.
Okay.
So we have to kind of work within a certain constraint. We can kind of tune and tweak it and try to give you the best performance, but for some of the guys that want to kind of really push it, this way we can go ahead and either give you more core voltage, more memory voltage, or more PLL voltage, and you can make those adjustments. Now, of course, that's a little bit risky because you got to be in the know to know, hey, how much I want to push it. But
so
we're talking,
fire your card out.
yeah, we're talking about extreme users that want that next level of control. Now, this will work, of course, with any graphics card, but there are a series of cards that we produce, like the 7970 or GTX 680 or our upcoming Matrix card, which have direct connection points for these for this VGA hot wire technology, and that's something once again that the Extreme has that the Formula won't offer.
I just liked when you hooked up because I always liked that you go in the BIOS and adjust all the volts and everything right for the BIOS. For me, it's easier because I'm already doing my overclocking and everything in there, so it's easier for me actually to connect it like there and control the video card from the BIOS. That's one feature about that I think is just really cool.
Sure.
A lot of people miss out on that, and it's just really something that's looked over.
Well, it's a high-end tech that also kind of aligns. We're going to probably have more water cooling users on Extreme, so of course those users might strip this all down, get you water cooling setup, even give you better temperature performance where you can overclock it higher, right? So it kind of lines up with making sense.
These cards were just too pretty for me to tear apart, JJ.
Well, that's why we put it externally. That's why you don't have to tear it apart. Now, one of the other kind of differences that we're going to have here is going to be some external control. Now, both boards feature ROG Connect technology. So that allows you to go ahead and connect a cable to this white port, be able to connect it to like a notebook or a desktop, and be able to externally monitor the system, diagnose it, overclock it, do a lot of really cool levels of functions, like even things like people talk a lot about like these debug codes and stuff like that. Well, what happens when I put this inside of a chassis? I can't see the debug code. So if my system's not posting, this does me zero value. But with ROG Connect, if my system wasn't posting and maybe it was a CPU problem, memory, graphics initialization, I could just go into ROG Connect and I'm no longer seeing this code. I can put it into string and actually I can see CPU memory initialization. That lets me know, hey, I have a problem there, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like almost like having your own little computer doctor outside your thing. As you look at it, you can see it all, so you don't have to worry about jumping back inside your case and everything. So in that effect, it's a really cool feature.
And you can do lots of cool stuff like even clear the CMOS through ROG Connect, so you don't have to reach behind your chassis and hit some button or anything like that. So that's really cool. But for extreme, once again, we want to take it to the next level. Maybe you don't have a secondary notebook, or you don't want to go through that kind of disconvenience. So here you could go ahead and use this cool little module that we have, which is called the OC key. And this OC key is essentially ROG Connect built directly into this little module. You can go ahead and attach it to your GPU like so. This makes a direct connection here on the motherboard that we have, and this will give you a full real-time on-screen display that you can bring up at any time. Doesn't matter whether you're in Windows, doesn't matter within the UEFI, you can go ahead and bring this up. You can monitor your temperatures, you can dynamically overclock the system, you can make voltage adjustments, you could see the debug code information, all that real time. And you can turn this on and off dynamically. You can just hit one key on the keyboard and you could turn the OC key in the on-screen display on, or you could hit it and turn it off.
So if like you were like in Windows environment and like you had your overclocking, but you thought you might have been having some kind of little problem or something, or like maybe something the AI suite came up and gave you a warning, you could just hop in there, look at it, see what's going on, and go back and make your adjustments, correct?
Yep, 100%. So that really kind of reaffirms that Extreme is about tweaking, tuning, and control. When we always focus on doing the Extreme board, it's about trying to bring the pinnacle of what you can talk about in terms of tweaking and tuning the board. And if you spend also some time looking at the UEFI, this is something that normally doesn't get talked about, but this is also going to be another difference. The Extreme boards have even a more insane UEFI than what our normal ROG boards have. All the ROG boards have an awesome UEFI. Super extensive in terms of control tuning, performance tuning. You can do everything in regards to, using the Digi+VRM and controlling, the CPU, the VRM, the DRAM. That's all adjustable. You can, of course, define load line calibrations, overcurrent protection mechanisms, all kinds of crazy stuff. 3 stages of DRAM timings. But on the Extreme, there's always going to be specialized, even more extensive performance parameters.
More breakdowns.
Yeah, that really allow you to get into just that much more, be able to tweak out performance.
Minute details.
Yeah, and we do spend time to actually release this information into like our ROG forums so that users actually know what the heck these options are. So there is going to be, I don't want to say a better UEFI on the Extreme, it's just going to be more extensive. But of course, some users might not need that, so they're going to be very well served by, of course, the Formula or from the Gene's UEFI.
Now, I know this question is going to come up. People are going to ask. Now, the OC key, there's no plug at all on the Formula to plug it in. That's why it doesn't work, right?
That's correct.
Because I get that question a lot. They're like, why can't I just take it from either board and hook it back in? Well, the only reason is there's just not the connectivity on this board for that, correct?
Yep, you got it 100% right. And lastly, touching there in terms of the UEFI, one of the other big things that some users might be taking into consideration is Windows 8 is going to be coming up pretty soon. And all our boards have now already received a full UEFI update to certify them for Windows 8. And that changes them from using the older ROM format to the new CAP format.
Okay.
This CAP format gives you some really cool stuff like customized post adjustments where you can disable controllers to even give you faster performance boot times. We've actually been doing internal analysis with good quality SSDs. We're getting post times sometimes in 6 to 8 seconds.
So real quick, JJ, what you're saying with this is like, so you can go in there and like you can disable a lot of features in the motherboards that you feel might be taking up, power, and you can disable those and more focus your board on what you want to do. Is that pretty much essentially it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've always had those options available in terms of turning off and on controllers, but this is even more specifically to the post. Yes. specifically to your post, where you can, let's say, do like partial USB initialization. So what that might mean is that maybe the USB ports won't fully initialize all the devices at post, but then they'll immediately do that once they get into Windows, so helping you to even have faster post times.
Okay.
It's also a more secure format that can minimize any type of, let's say, infection getting into your, like, a ROM file and stopping your system from being able to post or have other kinds of problems.
Basically, you're saying that this new cap's going to have a lot better BIOS protection, as well as just being an overall more robust BIOS in every way.
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah, most definitive. I mean, it's definitely one thing that's important. We don't want people to continue to try to think about them as being a BIOS anymore, because it is a UEFI. There are still some people out there that are running boards and setups that are BIOS based, but it's the replacement for the BIOS.
Right.
It's the UEFI.
UEFI is basically like, instead of having a BIOS, UEFI is basically just essentially a part of the motherboard, more electronic than just having a BIOS, correct?
Yeah, it's a much more extensive form of firmware to be able to interact with the board, and then also be able to interface with the operating system in new and unique ways, where you can do a lot of really cool stuff. Now, one of the last things that we're going to see here that's going to be very different is going to be this little guy, which is the Thunder Effects. So one of the biggest things that we've always kind of tried to focus on with ROG boards is to give you value. Value, of course, is achieved through a lot of different ways, and for us, that's really trying to bring the best of the best in terms of the hardware design, the feature set, the total package, and even sometimes things that you don't readily see, whether that's, the high performance components that are in there, or even like the software. We were touching there on the Thunder FX, but that's a good point to bring up, is that the Extreme doesn't come with some of the specialized software that you're going to have on the Formula board. Like, this one will come with a full unlocked version of Daemon Tools Standard Pro, and it will also come with a full 1-year license of Kaspersky antivirus. Not a lot of actually gamers consciously think about it, but infections actually at LANs and connecting to like third-party servers and different things like that really open you up to being infected. And we did a long-term research within the forum community that most users said, I'm not buying antivirus software, but if you can give me a good quality one that's already included within the product, I'll definitely utilize
use
it.
it. Sure, you don't have to dish out any money. And it always does help to have that.
Exactly, and so that's what our goal was. By including that, you don't have to go out and buy it. You can just install it. It's even got a specialized gamer mode, which helps to minimize it from bringing up any things like while you're in game, and even being lower in terms of CPU resources. And of course, Daemon Tools is awesome for image mounting and things like that.
So much more robust software packages is going to be coming with the formula.
More targeted, once again, kind of towards that gamer usage, right? Where once again on the Extreme, those users are going to probably custom select specifically the software that they want.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, this Thunder FX module that we talked about is an extension, of course, the high audio quality design that we've put in terms of the Supreme Effects. Here we've got the awesome, dedicated operational amplifier, which gives us higher driving staff with headphones, this beefy 1500 UF cap. We have these Elna audio capacitors, which are choice audio caps. Really badass, right?
People don't really understand this, JJ, but 4 or 5 years ago, there was Creative Solution that was $249, and it's nowhere even near
the cost
as well as this. I mean, and this is coming free on the motherboard. So a lot of people are, don't knock this. It's really a lot more than what it's just, we're making a joke about this, but it's more than the eye can see, because it really is. It's just a really great sound solution. And when I go back and I look at how much the prices of some of these old school sound cards are, I'm just like blown. I'm like, wow. I went back and looked through some of my stuff. I'm like, wow. With a breakout box, it was like $249, and it's coming in the box.
It's in the box.
That's one of my things. I'm just like, hey, I really like that. You know me, I love sound.
And I could definitely dig it. And that's part of the reason why on the Thunder FX, what we tried to do is also give you flexibility that being a PC gamer might not just mean that you're a PC gamer on your desktop. You might have an awesome notebook, right? You might even still also be a console gamer, right? So we wanted to be able to give value in terms of giving you this external USB-based solution, which you see actually it's got this little USB port and it's got analog inputs. So you could go ahead and plug this into your notebook and get even a better class of audio than even what we've done here. This is even using a better quality signal noise ratio processing chip, better quality audio capacitors, even a higher performance actually operational amplifier. Really choice piece of hardware.
Let me stop you right there, bro. So what you're saying is this piece of equipment doesn't not only necessarily have to work with this board.
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing? So
yes.
so not only can I use this awesome breakout box with this, I can actually use this as my external USB audio on my laptop.
On your laptop,
more value.
You could use it in your laptop. You could plug it into your console. We even give you actually the connections to be able to connect this directly to a Xbox 360 or to a PS3. I've actually even used it actually on my Nexus 7 or my Transformer Prime when I'm gaming to even get a better sound experience. And there's special technologies like this little front input, it's actually got an audio processing tech that's built into it, so that when you go ahead and you plug in your microphone, maybe like a headset, right? When you plug into this, what it will do is it will process all the ambient sound that's being processed through the microphone input and filter that out, so that while you're in like TeamSpeak, maybe you're using Ventrilo, maybe you're using Steam Chat, something, whatever it might be.
Doesn't pick up every breath.
It doesn't pick up, well, it doesn't pick up all the other noise that might be around. Like, you know, when I'm in my apartment and I'm gaming, you know, I love my lady to death, but she might be talking to me about something while I'm in the middle of, you know, like a raid, or I might be in the middle of a map or something,
and she expects you to listen?
And the voice might come through. So here it's helping to filter all that out. So we've even got specialized audio technologies, which once again help to reinforce that gaming segmentation.
So they get rid of ambient noise.
Yeah, it's specifically ambient. So it's just like, you know how there's a noise canceling. Yeah, you've got noise canceling tech for, let's say, headphones, right? This is noise canceling tech that's specifically for audio on the mic side.
That's pretty cool stuff.
So, and that's built in here. But the big thing is, like I said, value. You have the flexibility of not just using this on this system. You could, of course, use it on other on other devices.
I don't think many people have actually caught on to that as of yet.
Yeah, so here you've got kind of two audio solutions in that regard, but it's also about the value perspective, you know, in terms of being able to say that, hey, maybe even for that next generation launch, maybe they don't buy an ROG board. Maybe they buy a Sabertooth board, right? And they're not going to get that same class of audio, but this hardware, they can just connect over to the next generation board
and keep going.
And still keep going. Exactly.
That's actually pretty cool. So basically, once you get this, no matter what motherboard you own, you've got awesome audio right there. So just one thing I really wanted to make sure that everybody knew out there, no matter whether you buy the Gene, the Formula, or you buy the Extreme, there's no sacrifice in quality. So if you go out and you say, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy the Extreme board because it has better parts, that's not true. All of them have the same great parts. The differences, what we try to show you guys today, are in the feature sets.
Yeah, you're definitely 100% right. I mean, one of the things that we take a huge amount of time and effort in is to make sure that we have those non-negotiables that we've talked about in the past, whether they're things like, you know, the AI Suite 2 technology, the Fan Expert, the Intel LAN, the USB 3 Boost, the USB charger, all that and more are going to consistently be here. All the high performance components are all going to be here. It's just those specific features of kind of figuring out, are you maybe more of a focused gamer where you're trying to figure out, hey, do I want right off that bat that best integrated gaming experience where maybe Gene and Formula might be a better option? Or am I somebody that already has, you know, more components, more control over what I'm going to be putting in, more expansion considerations, and maybe floating over to something like the Extreme?
Yeah. I try to cut it really simple. Like for me, I feel like when you're using the Formula board, it's basically the board that you're going to put all your components in there, and maybe you might do a little tinkering with, but everything's already just so there you don't have to mess with it. When you got the Extreme board, I feel that's like the user who's going to be changing parts all the time, like me and JJ talked about, bleeding edge technology. If you want to keep changing your stuff out all the time, expandability, that's when you're going to go and use the Extreme board. Beyond that, I mean, there's so much quality in each board, it gets hard to differentiate, which is why you guys had questions. And I really hope that with this video, this has helped you. If you've got any other specific stuff that you want to ask us, go ahead and leave the comments below, and me or JJ will be happy to answer your comments. If you'd like to purchase any boards, you guys can check out the description below, and we've got much more work here to do on Motherboards.org with our buddy JJ from ASUS. See you guys later.